Akadosh Boker Or Masechet Makkot Daf Yomi Daf Tedvav Amud Aleph 15a1 says we're going to start on the bottom of 14b, the second last line. Amar Rabbi Barachan Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan name Rabbi Yochanan. Kol lo ta'aseh shekedamo aseh lokin alav. Everyone remember what was the lav anita klaseh? Are you guys listening? Everyone remembers what is the lav anita klaseh? Lav anita klaseh was, for example, is if right now I've got a negative commandment, right? For example, lo tigzol. And all of a sudden afterwards I have a positive commandment where it says v'shivita gazela shegazal, which means that I have, right, a mitzvah, which is a positive commandment to fix up, right, the negative commandment. So in such a case where I have a lav anita klaseh, you do not get lashes. En malkut. Lama. As if the Torah came and gave you a fix. What is the fix? The aseh. So therefore, I don't get the lashes on the lav anita klaseh. However, though, kol lo ta'aseh shekedamo aseh. What happens if the aseh came before the lav? Right? Which means you could be mekayem the mitzvah aseh afilu beli halav. Even without the lav, right? He says, lokin halav, right? You are going to come and you will get the lashes. Okay? So for example, right? Let's say srefat notar, right? Burning of leftovers. So a person cannot be mekayem etzeh bli alot tutiru mimeno al boker. Meaning you could only burn the leftovers once it became bad leftovers. So you have to wait to be over the negative commandment, and then you're going to burn, right, which is the positive commandment, right? But what is kadamo aseh? So he says that you could come and you could do the aseh if shalekaimo even yifnei halav. So he comes and he says, right, lo tigzol is obviously a lav anita klaseh. So he comes and he says, right, as follows. He says like this. Amrulo, he said to him, right, this is Amrulo the Rabbi Yochanan, right? Amarta? Did you actually say this? Amarlo, he said no. He says, which means he actually retracted. And he says that they're not going to be lokeh even on a lav shekidamo aseh. So he comes and he says, Amar Rabba, says Rabba, Hailokim Amra. No, for sure he did say it. Uchtiva, right? And it's written, V'tanina, we learned it. Ktiva, so now let's see what it was exactly referring to. Ktiva, it's written, V'shalechum mina machane kol tzarua v'chol zav v'chol tameh lanafesh. Yeah, this is Parashat. Yeah. No. Naso. Yeah. Parashat Naso, it's written, anybody that has sarat, or that's a zav, sarat, he's got leprosy, he's a zav, he's got a seminal discharge, a sickness, or tameh lanafesh, or he's tameh. So in any of these three cases, sarua, zav, tameh lanafesh, it's written you have to send them out of the camp. Velo yitameu et machanehem, right? And they're not going to come and contaminate the camps. So therefore, you cannot bring somebody that's tameh in machaneh shechina or to the mikdash. So there's a mitzvah taseh to send somebody out of the mikdash if they're tameh. So Tanina, so we already learned in the Mishnah, ve'abala mikdash tameh, right? What does that mean? We learned in our Mishnah that if you come to the Bet HaMikdash and you're tameh, what happens? You get lashes. Now, 1 second. But there's a positive commandment. The positive commandment is v'shalechu mina machaneh. So therefore, right, which means that if a person is already going to be tameh, you have a mitzvah to send them out. So it's a positive commandment, right? And still what? You get lashes.
Positive and negative on him, but he does. The negative is on him, not to go into the Bet HaMikdash. The positive is on somebody else.
Doesn't matter. There's a positive. The positive commandment is on the negative. So he comes and he says, and you still get lashes. So the question is, right, what's going to happen? So he says, Ela maitama. So then why did he retract it? So he says like this. He says, Mishum de kashele, because he had a question about ones. What's the question about ones? Let's see. The Tanya we learned in a Braita. Ones shegires. Right? We're talking about now, somebody came and he was an anas, an betula. Right? Now we know that when somebody comes and they violate an betula, they have to get married to them and they're not allowed to divorce them. Right? He has to be married to her for the rest of his life. Right? Meaning he went and he, right? Why? Because now for the rest of his life, that's fine. But he's got the obligation. He cannot do it. It's not dependent upon him. So therefore, now what happens though is he went and he actually did divorce her. Yeah, he went against the halacha and he divorced her. So therefore, he went against the lav. It says, what is the lav? Lo yuchal l'shalecha kol yamav. You're not allowed to send her away your entire lifetime. So im Yisraelhu, right? If he's a Yisrael, machzir. He takes her back. Ve'eno loken. He doesn't get the lashes. In kohenu, but let's say he's a kohen. A kohen cannot bring her back. So therefore, loke. He's going to get lashes. Ve'eno machzir, and he's not going to bring her back. So ask the Gemara, im Yisraelhu, if he's a Yisrael, machzir ve'eno loke. He brings her back and he doesn't get lashes. Amai, why? It's a lo ta'aseh shekedamo asehu. This is a negative commandment where it says velo tieh leisha, right? And that comes before lo yuchal l'shalecha kol yamav. And still it says lilke, you still get lashes. So you see from here that the lo ta'aseh came after, right, the aseh. So it comes out that still, right, this goes against Rabbi Yochanan, right? Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan wanted to say that you're not going to get lashes, right? Even if it's going to be a lav shekidamo aseh, you still get lashes. One more time. The aseh was, right, velo tieh leisha. Velo tieh leisha is a positive commandment. That came before the pasuk, lo yuchal l'shalecha kol yamav, right? So therefore, right, if that came before, it's not that it was a, lo tigzol, and then it comes and it tells you, or notar, right? And then it says, lo tiru mimeno boker, vanotar mimeno boker, vayeshti strofu. There you have a negative commandment, and then you have the positive commandment to fix up the negative commandment. Here, the positive commandment came before the negative commandment. The positive commandment is, velo tieh leisha. Yes, to marry her. And that's a positive commandment. And then you have the negative commandment, yuchal l'shalecha kol yamav, but you still get lashes. So this is a proof against Rabbi Yochanan. So because of this proof against Rabbi Yochanan, that even if the mitzvah taseh came before the lo ta'aseh, right, lokin alav, right? So therefore, this is like, that's why Rabbi Yochanan retracted, because he had this question. So says the Gemara as follows. So therefore, it comes out that obviously that's why Rabbi Yochanan came and he retracted. So Amar Ula comes and he says, Lo yamer lo tieh leisha be'ones veligmar mimotzi shemra. Says the Gemara, 1 second. I don't understand. Why did you need to say velo tieh leisha? Velo tieh leisha was brought down to do with honest. Don't say it. Where am I going to learn it from? Motzi shemra. What is motzi shemra? Motzi shemra is the guy comes to the bedin after the marriage, and all of a sudden he comes and he's motzi shemra lishto that she wasn't a betula. He says she wasn't a virgin. So therefore, obviously, she slept in between or whatever. She did something inappropriate. So what happens? The Gemara comes and it says that comes the father of the girl, and he proves that she was a betula. And then what happens? And all of a sudden, right, what happens is that, again, the same thing, he's not allowed to divorce her. He gets slashes. He has to pay 100 shekel. He has to do. So just learn the honest from the motzi shemra. Uma motzi shemra shelo asa maaseh. Now, it's even worse here. Why? Because the motzi shemra, he didn't do a maaseh. Why didn't he do a maaseh? It was only dibur. You remember we spoke about this a few times already. Here he only spoke, right? He only came and he spoke. He didn't do any action. It was with his speech. Amar Rachmanan, the Torah says, "Velo tieh leisha." Honest that he actually violated a woman, he actually did an action. Lo kol sheken. Shouldn't be a kol sheken that he has to actually get married to her, right? So lama, okay, fine. So imenu inyan lefanav. Now, if you cannot use it before the girushin, so then use it for after the girushin. Shim giresh yachzir. That if you divorced her, you have to bring her back. You remember we already brought down this concept of imenu inyan lekan, teneu inyan lekan, meaning that if you cannot use it for this, use it for something else. Meaning, if I do not need it for this, so then I'm going to use it for something else. So before the marriage, I don't need it. So obviously, we're talking about after marriage, which is going to be after the girushin. Now, what does that mean? That means he comes and he divorces her. He still has to bring her back. So it comes out that the mitzvah taseh, the positive commandment of velo tieh leisha, to do with honest, was not needed only to teach you that he has to get married, that even after he divorces her, and he comes and he is over on a negative commandment of lo yuchal l'shalecha kol yamav, still he's able to exempt himself from the malkut because he could take her back. And the fact that we did that, so therefore that's the purpose of that positive commandment. So says the Gemara, I'm going to ask you a question against the Kal V'chomer. One more time. What was the Kal V'chomer? The Kal V'chomer is, I should learn that he has to stay married to her from Motzi Shemra. Honest from Motzi Shemra. if the Motzi Shemra didn't do an action, he only did speech, and he's obligated to stay married to her for the rest of his life against his will. Now remember, we might think, okay, fine, so he'll stay married to her, but then he'll make her life miserable. Remember, if any time throughout the marriage he renegates her, takes away from her any of the things which are his obligations, she takes him to Bedin and they put him knasot. So it's not just time that a guy could come and say, okay, fine, you know what, I'm gonna, right? So all of a sudden he says, you know what, I want you to do a good diet. Yeah, so I'm not gonna give you food, right? Or I'm not gonna give you new clothing, right? You have already enough clothing. Or I'm not gonna give you the Davar Acher. I don't need to get all these things. He gets punished for it. So it's not just something like that. No, right? We come. She also does. So says the Gemara. Yeah. So he says like this. Va'akati. So now he's going to say Akati. Ones mimotzi shemra lo gamar. I still can't learn ones from shemra. Why? Because I'm going to ask you a question. Ma lemotzi shemra sheken lokeu mishalem. Motzi shemra, you get lashes and you pay, because it says v'isiru oto v'aneshu oto me'achesef. Right. So therefore, since it says you get lashes v'isiru oto plus v'aneshu oto me'achesef, so he says there the Torah was much more machmir. Ones, you don't get both lashes and the me'achesef. Meaning, when a person comes and he violates a woman and he's obligated to get married to her, he doesn't get lashes plus pays. Right? He doesn't do that. He has to give the more betulot or whatever, but he doesn't get that. It's not like Motzi Shemra. So therefore, since there's a stringency by Motzi Shemra, I cannot learn ones from Motzi Shemra. I wanted to learn a kal v'chomer ones from Motzi Shemra, and therefore say that the reason why by ones it said that you have to stay married to her is to teach you that efilu acharei girushin, if the guy divorced her, he has to bring her back. Yeah, he's obligated to bring machzir et grushato. So here we're saying you can't do that kal v'chomer. Ela b'rather. Lo yamar lo tiel isha mutzi shemra. The opposite. We should not have said that he has to stay married to her by a mutzi shemra, and we're going to learn that from ones. Meaning, not that we're learning ones from mutzi shemra. We should be learning mutzi shemra from ones. So he says, why? Uma ones, just like ones. Eno lokeu mishalem. You don't get lashes and you pay. Meaning, you don't get two punishments. You only pay. Amar Achmanan, the Torah still says velo tiel isha, that he has to stay married to her. Motzi shemra lo kol sheken. Motzi shemra kol sheken, that he has to stay married to her. So says the Gemara. So v'lama ne'emar. So why did I say velo tiel isha by motzi shemra? Imenu inyan le motzi shemra, tedeu inyan leones. Imenu le fanav, tedeu inyan le'charav. If I don't need it for motzi shemra, I'm going to use it for ones. And if I don't need it for before the marriage, meaning like before the divorce, basically, because I already know that he has to stay married to her, so then I'm going to use it for afterwards, right? That was the imenu inyan lekan, tedeu inyan lekan. Remember, that's what we brought down, that even the entire concept of achoto was coming to teach you prat lechalek legabei, the making of the shemen hamishcha. Somebody has relations with his sister. We're talking about now coming and making the shemen hamishcha or anointing himself with the shemen hamishcha. That's two separate avirot. Ma kesher. The concept is, if I don't need it for something, I'm going to use it for something else. So here I have two halachot, motzi shemra and ones. Both of them, motzi shemra is special, but lokeu mishalem. You get lashes and you have to pay, right? But motzi shemra is very special also, mitzvah that it's only dibur, it's not a maaseh. So I wanted to learn, right, that 1 second. Why does it say velo tiel isha, that he has to stay married to her, right? Why do I have to say that by ones? I could have learned it from a kal v'chomer, from motzi shemra. If motzi shemra is only dibur and you still velo tiel isha, kal v'chomer ones, that you did an action, says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Motzi shemra is a chumrah. What's a chumrah by motzi shemra? Lokeu mishalem. I can't learn from it. Meaning, the second that they have a chumrah, it's not a kal from a chomer anymore, right? Because I can't say that anymore, because it's the opposite, right? There's a chumrah by the other way around, right? What's the chumrah by the motzi shemra? Right? The chumrah is lokeu mishalem. So maybe that's why I can't learn from it. So says the Gemara, do the other way around. I'm going to learn the motzi shemra from the ones, right? Why? Just like by ones it says velo tiel isha, right? So therefore motzi shemra, which is going to be, so I have to learn from there. Velo tiel isha, it's kal v'chomer. So says the Gemara, right? What's going to happen over there? So then it's extra by motzi shemra. If it's extra by motzi shemra and I don't need it, so then what are you going to use it for? For ones. But I already have it written by ones. So fine. So if I have it written by ones, I have it written by ones the first time around. Velot Yelisha means he has to get married to her. So if I don't need it the first time around, it comes to teach you afterwards. After Girushin. What is afterwards? That even if he already divorced her and he divorced her B'Yisur, have a seat. Huh? Even if a person has to come and he has to divorce her, right? B'Yisur, what's going to happen? He has to bring her back. So says the Gemara, right? I'm also going to ask against this Kal V'chomer. What's the question against this Kal V'chomer? We already said it. But why? Why? What was the Chumrah by Motzi Shemra more than Ones? And what is the Chumrah of Ones more than Motzi Shemra? Says the Gemara. He says, Motzi Shemra, I also can learn from Ones. Why? Was I'm going to ask right? He comes and he says, he did an action. So if he did an action, right, that's it. Right? So he says, Ella, but rather, lo yamer. Everyone understood. Each one has a chumrah, and therefore, since each one has a chumrah, I cannot learn one from the other. The chumrah of Motzi Shemra is lokeu meshalem, right? And the chumrah of Ones is that you did an action. So he says, Ella, but rather, lo yamer, lo tiye li isha Motzi Shemra, share ishtohi. You know why I don't need to say lo tiye li isha by Motzi Shemra? Because she's already his wife. Velo tiye li isha means, for him, he has to get married to her as a woman. I understand that by Ones. Why? A man came, he violated a woman. So what's his punishment? Now he has to get married to her. So then that's fine. By Motzi Shemra, it's already his wife. What do you mean now? Velo tiye li isha. He kvar ishto. She's already his wife. So says the Gemara, you don't have to say it by the Motzi Shemra, because it's already the wife. So why do I need it then? So if I don't need it for Motzi Shemra, use it for Ones. And if I don't need it for Ones before, because it already says by Ones, lo tiye li isha, so I'm going to use it for afterwards. What is afterwards again? After the Girushin. That after he already divorces her, he still has to bring her back. So that's what it means. So says the Gemara, fine. Ve'ema, but I'm going to ask another question now. Right? Ve'ema, v'imenu inyan lefanav de Motzi Shemra, teneu inyan lacharav didei de lo laki. Says the Gemara, one second. What was I trying to do? I was trying to use lo yuchal velo tiye li isha of Motzi Shemra. I was trying to take it out of Motzi Shemra because I didn't need it, and I was going to use it for Ones. Now, by Ones, I also didn't need it before because it already says velo tiye li isha by Ones. So I need it for afterwards. Says the Gemara, why am I going to take it out of Motzi Shemra? You're right. Velo tiye li isha is extra. Why is it extra? Ikvar ishto. She's already his wife. So I don't need to tell you, velo tiye li isha, she should be a wife to him. She's already his wife. So one second. So what do I need it now? I need it for afterwards. Meaning that he shouldn't get the lashes. Right? What do you mean that you shouldn't get the lashes? That the Motzi Shemra should not get the lashes if he already divorced her, right? Because at the end of the day, it's extra. So if you have a Motzi Shemra that he comes and he divorces his wife, right? Even though he wasn't allowed to, right? But if he does divorce his wife, he shouldn't get lashes. Why? Velo tiye li isha. It's going to be, right, a positive, because it's coming and it's saying that this pasuk is not extra than a teket lav shel Ones. He says, imi girsha, it's a lav anita klaseh. Get married to her again, he doesn't get lashes. So answers the Gemara, inachanami. It's a very good question. You're right. Inachanami, you're right. Meaning, Motzi Shemra comes and he divorces his wife, he does not get lashes. Why? Because he could bring her back, and once he brings her back, so he doesn't get lashes. He doesn't get lashes. Says ve'ati Ones. Now comes the Ones. Ve'gamar mineh. Now we're going to learn the Ones from the Motzi Shemra. Meaning, just like by Motzi Shemra, he does not get malkut begirushin if he brings her back. So therefore, so to the Ones, if he brings her back, he does not get malkut. We learn it from it. You're right. That's why we said the Kohen does get lashes. That was the beginning of the daf. The Kohen does get lashes. That was the beginning of the daf. I'm glad that you heard. So says the Gemara, b'may gamir mina. Yeah. So he says, b'may gamir mina. So says the Gemara, so one second, how are we learning it then from? How do you learn Ones from? How do you learn Ones from Motzi Shemra? So says the Gemara, ibe kal v'chomer, right? Ve'ibe mametzinu, right? Ikalamifrach. Ma lemotzi shemra sheken lo asa maaseh. One more time. How do you learn something from something else? So we know that there's 13 midot, right? 13 midot שהתורה נדרשת בהן. קו החומר, זרע שווה, בניין אב, right? So one second. One of them is a קו החומר. I cannot learn a קו החומר. Why can't I learn a קו החומר? Because ones has a maaseh. So I cannot learn ones from קו החומר from מוציא שם רע. So therefore, yes, that's why I can't learn it. So obviously I couldn't learn from there. Amamatzinu is אותו דבר. Mamatzinu is just like we found over here, we could find over there. Again, if you have meaning if you have a question against it, which is the same thing that here it says, so you don't learn it either. So again, you have the same thing. Ela amar Rava, but rather Rava comes and he says, Be'amod ve'achzer. He comes and he says like this. Be'amod ve'achzer, right? He comes and he says like this. Amod ve'achzer means, right, as follows, right? Amod ve'achzer means the pasuk. Right? The pasuk comes, right? And it says, Lu yuchal shalecha kol yamav. So he comes and he says, kol yamav is extra. Yeah? Kol yamav is extra. Because it could have just said, Lu yuchal shalecha. Why did it say kol yamav? So the extra words of kol yamav is saying that even if he divorced her, bring her back. And therefore that's the sim yuchad of amod ve'echzer. And therefore it's not considered lav shekedamo aseh. Right, because the aseh is a mod v'echzer is nothing to do with after the avirat alav. Okay, so which means that all kol yamav is where it's teaching you that the entire lifetime he has to be married to her. If it could have just said in the Torah, lo yuchal shalecha, don't send her away. Why did it say kol yamav? Kol yamav teaches you that even if he did send her away, he has to bring her back because all his life he has to be married to her. Amod v'echzer kai. Of course, he's not allowed to do. He's not allowed to do it. Which one? Yes. So now when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amari came and he said, Amari the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Yamav ve'amod ve'echzer. When it says in the pasuk Lo yuchal shalecha Kol Yamav, lama yatzrich lichtov Kol Yamav? Why do you have to write Kol Yamav? Kol Yamav is extra. Lo yuchal shalecha. You can't send her away. Why Kol Yamav? Kol Yamav means amod ve'echzer, meaning that Kol Yamav, אפילו אם הוא בא והוא מגרש אותה באמצע, לא משנה מתי, יש לו מצווה שעמוד ve'echzer. He has to come and get married to her again. He cannot. He's obligated to get married to her again. So Amaleh Rav Papa Rava says, Rav Papa Rava, ve'ha lo dami lave lelav de chasima. Says 1 second. This love is shekedamo aseh, is not domeh to the love of chasima. Remember the lo tachsom shor b'disho, right? What does that mean? You're not allowed to muzzle the shore when it's grazing. Okay, it's a isur doraita, right? Lo tachsom shor b'disho, right? From here, the rabbis learned that if the food of the kiddush is already out, lo tachsom shor b'disho, right? You have to let them come and you have to let them eat. Yeah, you understand why? Because if not, you're muzzling them. You understand? So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. I see it all the time. Yeah. So Elmaleh comes and he says, right? He says, why? Why do we say lo tachsom shor b'disho? He says from there we learn chiyuv malkut from all the lavin. Why? Because the lav of chasima, there's no mitzvah taseh. So therefore it's only a lav, right? Now, since it's not kashur to the lav of chasima, why bichlal is there malkut? So Elmaleh, he says, mishum dekatav berachmana aseh yetera migragara. He says, I don't understand. Because you have an extra mitzvah taseh, now you're going to make it worse? Meaning, right? You're telling me that it's not domeh to lo tachsom shor b'disho, right? And therefore, if it's not domeh lo tachsom shor b'disho, you can't give lashes. He says, I don't understand you. Because I added a positive commandment, now it's not kashur to lo tachsom shor b'disho. The opposite. If I'm going to come, the Chavetz Chaim, he comes in his introduction and he says, why is there so many mitzvah taseh, mitzvah lo taseh to do with lashon ra? He says, you know why? Because it's kilu, the king keeps on telling you, it's warning signs. And he keeps on telling you, don't do this, you have to speak positive, judge favorably, don't do this. Why? It's opposite. It's not going to make it worse. It's making it better. So same thing. He says here, what? Just because I added a positive commandment, now I'm going to say that you can't give a negative, you can't give lashes, because it's not compared to thing. If so, Says the Gemara, Lava nitak la'aseh nami. Leima mishun dekadar rachmana aseh yetera migra gara. So 1 second. So the same sphere I should use for lava nitak la'aseh. What do we say by lava nitak la'aseh? By lava nitak la'aseh, we came and we said that a person does not get lashes. Why? Because you could fix it. How do you fix it? Without aseh. So we should have asked the same question. Because you added on a mitzvah aseh, so now you made it worse? So Elmaleh, he says, no. The entire purpose of the aseh was to fix the love. Meaning it wasn't that HaKadosh Baruch Hu added on an extra mitzvah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you, you made a mistake, fix the mistake. It's not 8:30. Yeah? He comes and he says, yeah, one more time. The entire purpose of the aseh was to fix the love. So since the entire purpose of the aseh was to fix the love, that's why he's saying that's how it's not that you added an extra one, so now you make it. No. The entire purpose of the positive commandment. So the kol etzem mitzvah aseh, zaya rak letaken et lo taseh. That's the reason why it's here. Okay? So says the Gemara, Hani Chalamandamar. This is good according to the Mandamar that he says, bitelo velo bitelo, which means alava nitak la'aseh, a person will not be lokeh unless he's mevatel da'aseh biyadayim, that he cannot be mekayem et zeh. But let's say he wasn't mevatel et zeh biyadayim, right? Elmandamar, according to the Mandamar, kiyemo velo kiyemo, right? Which means alava nitak la'aseh, you're not going to get it only if you're mekayem da'aseh. But if you're not mekayem da'aseh, no. So Michael Mimar, then what are you going to say? So for example, I'll give you the example. You have a negative commandment. What's the negative commandment? You're not allowed to steal. What's the positive commandment? You have to give it back. There's a concept. Is it bitelo velo bitelo or kiyemo velo kiyemo? Meaning like this. When do I say that you get the lashes? When do I say that you get the lashes? Is it when I mevatel that I cannot give it back to you anymore? Bitelo velo bitelo, or only when I'm mekayem the mitzvah taseh that I give it back to you. So the question is, when is it, right? Which one? Obviously. What happens, or when does he get lashes then? So that's bitelo velo bitelo. Is it bitelo velo bitelo? Meaning that right now I cannot give it back anymore. Or for example, is it mekayemo or lo mekayemo? Meaning that if, as long as they're not mekayem, technically I could give you the lashes because you didn't do the positive commandment yet. You have a mitzvah v'shivit gezilah. Did you give it back yet? You didn't give it back yet. So as long as you're not mekayem the aseh, technically I could still give you the lashes. If you tell me it's bitlo velo bitlo, no, I wasn't mevatel. I still have it right here. I can give it back to you tomorrow. I just told you. One more time. Right? Let's go step outside, everyone. One more time. What? Give it back. Right?
Spend it. Let's say it's money spending.
Exactly. Yeah. So one more time. The concept is you have a positive commandment to give it back. When do you get the lashes? Do you get the lashes in bitlo velo bitlo? Meaning only if you right now you can't give it back anymore. You destroyed it. Gamarnu. And let's say you can't even give the money back. The guy passed away, whatever the case is, you cannot give it back, whatever the case was. No, but technically you could always give back money. But let's pretend whatever it is, you cannot, you're mevatel. You cannot be mekayem da'aseh, right? You cannot be mekayem as anymore. So therefore, right, for example, notar. Notar was leftovers. You have a korban, you have to eat in a certain time. Vanotar mimenu be'esh tisrofu. I took it and I threw it out. It's gone. The garbage collectors took it to Honolulu. I can't burn it anymore. So if I can't burn it anymore, I was just mevatel. So that's bitlo velo bitlo. Or is it you say, and therefore you would get lashes? Because right now, it's a lava nitak laseh. I can't be mekayem da'aseh anymore. I was minatek. I completely, I annulled it, right? I was mevatel ezeh. Or do you say it's mekayemo velo mekayemo? Mekayemo means only when I'm going to fulfill it. Meaning, as long as I did not do the aseh, technically speaking, you should be able to get the lashes because I didn't fix it. The fixing of it is actually doing it, right? So that's what he says. Rakal kiyuma aseh. Even though he wasn't mevatel biyadayim, vadayim biyado lekayemo. You could still do it. So says the Gemara, and that's why the betin could come and say, or you give it back now, or you get the lashes. We thought lava nitak laseh. Kamana is I can't give you lashes. No, betin will come and tell you you have a lava nitak laseh. You just stole $1,000. You have a choice. You give it back right now, or we give you lashes. Very simple. Yeah? So that's mikaymo, lo mikaymo. Anyway, of course, but that's bitlo. That's kal v'chomer. That's even more. But here the question is, even before then, meaning even if he has $1,000, we could still give it to him because he's not mekayem. That's why that again we have a doubt. When we say alav anitak laseh, does that mean that it's mivatlo lo bitlo or mekaymo lo mekaymo? Does that means, for example, the $1,000 is here? So that's bedin already. That's something else, right? But the bedin will decide that, right? Bedin machlitin. Yeah. So what happens now is, what are we going to say? So Tedvav Mubet, Midi Utama le Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, we only needed this answer according to Rabbi Yochanan because he was the one that said Kol Yama B'Amud V'Echser, right? 15b. Yeah. So he says Hama le Rabbi Yochanan le Tana. Says Rabbi Yochanan to that Tana, right? He says Tani bitlo chayav ve'lo bitlo patur. Meaning, according to him, everything is bitlo ve'lo bitlo, which means according to him, you do need to say Kol Yama B'Amud V'Echser. Because as long as he wasn't mivatel the aseh biyadayim, so therefore he still does not get lashes. Meaning you could tell him, okay, get married, right? But it's not kaymo lo kaymo. Why? Because I could still get married to her. As long as I still could get married to her, there's no problem. How do I stop that I cannot get married to her? You know how? Doctor, how would I stop? How would I annul that now I cannot get married to her again?
No,
Chazak Baruch. If she gets married to somebody else, that's a very good one. There's another one. If he got married to one of the family members that she becomes a tzara, that for example. So then once something like that happens, so then that's it, right? So again, that would be another one. So here it says the Tani Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, as we learned in front of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol mitzvah lo tasa sheyesh ba kumaseh, any negative commandment that has a positive commandment, if he was mekayem the mitzvah taseh patur, he's patur from Makkot. Bitel aseh sheba, if he was mevatel the mitzvah taseh chayav, he's going to get the lashes. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says the Tana, Mika amarta kiyem patur lo kiyem chayav. Does it say kiyem or lo kiyem? Sheim ata mekayem, you're going to be patur, and lo mekayem, you're going to be chayav. Bitel chayav lo bitel patur. Right? Everything is so Tani bitlo v'lo bitlo patur. Meaning it's bitlo v'lo bitlo has nothing to do with kiyem lo kiyemo. Meaning the betin, as long as the guy did not come and tell, meaning he didn't annul the opportunity to go and do teshuvah. This is Musar Askel of today. As long as the person was not annulled, right? He's able still to come and to do it. He doesn't get lashes because there's still the opportunity. If he completely destroys that opportunity, then Kaddish. You're right. But as long as there's opportunity, לעשות תשובה, אתה שומע? כן, זאת אומרת, תמיד יש את האופציה, תמיד יש את האפשרות לחזור בתשובה, הוא לא ביטל את זה. אז אפילו לא קיים את זה עדיין. Right? Still, he's still able to come, and he's still able to do it. יש תקווה, תמיד. So Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish אומר, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish comes, and he argues, and he says, קיימו ולא קיימו. Meaning, this concept of ביטלו, לא ביטלו, or קיימו, לא קיימו, is the machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says, bitlo velo bitlo. Comes Resh Lakish and he says, kiyemo velo kiyemo. Meaning, according to Resh Lakish, I'm going to put an ultimatum. You know what an ultimatum is? Ultimatum. Yeah? And what's the ultimatum? I come and I tell him, it's either you do it within the next 10 minutes, Kaddish. Right? We're going to say Vurachum for you. Yeah? That's what we could come and we do it. So the Gemara asks, what is the machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish? So he says, "Ba'atrat safek kamipalge." The machloket between them is ba'atrat safek. What does that mean? Do you get lashes on atrat safek or not? Because the over on the lav does not get lashes until you give him a warning, and then he went against the warning. Now the question is here, it's atrat safek. Why is it atrat safek? Because maybe bemet he'll never get the lashes, right? Oh, yeah. So therefore, he comes and he says. Right, more savar atrat safek shematra, because one of them comes and he says atrat safek is called atra, meaning when you give a warning and there's a doubt whether it's going to work or not, that's called atra, right? And therefore you get lashes. You get lashes for it when you're going to tell it afterwards. So for example, when a person comes and an honest comes and he divorces his wife, and then he comes and he's madid hana'ah. If he's madid hana'ah, he cannot come and retract and take her back. Madinana means he makes a vow, right, that she cannot benefit from him or he cannot benefit from her. So therefore, even though at the time of the Avera, right, the love was only a safek, whether he could bring it back or not, right? But once he was Madina Na'ah, so then that comes out with Satrat Safek. Because when they gave him that Torah that you have to take her back, because if not, you're going to get lashes, that's Satrat Safek. And maybe he was going to take her back. And if he was going to take her back, there's no lashes. So it's called Hatrat Safek. So he says, right, which one? Of course. So more Savar and more holds. One second. More Savar. Hatrat Safek lo shmatra. So the other one comes and he says, Hatrat Safek is not called Hatra. What does that mean? So therefore, if it's not called Hatra, you can never give the lashes. Because to give lashes, you need Hatra. Hatra is the warning, right? To give the lashes. Now, if it's Hatrat Safek, it's not called Hatra. So for you never gave the warning. So therefore, right, the question is, how does it work? Because if not, you're never going to get the lashes. Because even if you're going to be batel achar kach taseb yadayim, during the time of the Avirah, it was a Safek. Were you going to get it or not? So since it was a Safek, that's not called Hatra. So therefore, it doesn't help. So you'll never get it. So according to that, that's a machloke between Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish. So says the Gemara, ve'azdu l'tamayu, and they both go according to the reasonings. Why? The Itmar was stated, Shavua she'uchal kikar ze hayom, ve'avar hayom v'lo achala. Imagine a person comes and he makes a Shavua. We just learned Shavuot, right? We did right before, right? The Duyot, we did Shavuot. So right, so we just learned it in the Mishnah Yomi. And what happened was is that we said Shavua she'uchal kikar ze hayom. Imagine a person comes and makes a Shavua. What's a Shavua? He's going to eat this kikar of lechem today. It passed the day, he didn't need it. Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish will say, Eno loke. They don't get the lashes. Now why not? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Eno loke. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Eno loke, why? Mishum dehavi lav shemo maaseh. Says Rabbi Yochanan, it's a lav shemo maaseh. There's no action. You didn't do an action. It's an inaction. The fact that you didn't eat the bread is an inaction. So lav shemo maaseh, eno kin alav. Bechol hashemos eno kin alav. Resh Lakish says, Eno loke, mishum davi atrat safek. According to Resh Lakish says, you know why you don't get lashes? Not because it's lav shemo maaseh. It's atrat safek. It's a safek. Meaning, when I come and I give you the hatra, I give you hatra, right? What's hatra? What's the warning? If you don't eat this, so then what? You're going to get lashes. Can he still eat it?
I didn't tell you when you have to eat.
So therefore, that's called hatrat safek. Why is that called hatrat safek? It's called hatrat safek because at the end of the day, right, during the time when he's warning him, right, he could still eat it. He still has time to eat it. So therefore, the entire thing is hatrat safek. The entire thing is a doubt whether yes or not. The chol hatrat safek lo shma hatra, and any hatrat safek is not called hatra. So because of that, that's why we're going to say that obviously you're not going to get any lash.